Do modern rappers use South LA in their lyrics, or does it not rhyme that well? Hey guys, welcome back to the South LA recap where we're looking at South LA, South Central, inside and out, and exploring the history around it. I'm your host, Eric Craig, and today we are finalizing the debate between South LA and South Central and what that means for the community and people like me and possibly you that live in the community. So far, we have explored 3 other parts to this video. We looked at what actual residents call this part of LA. We looked at a brief history of the region and how it developed from one neighborhood to over 20. And we also looked at how words like South Central, South LA, Southeast LA, Southwest LA were used over time. This episode concludes the debate. And well, we'll start by actually looking at what City Council said back in the early 2000s. We know that there is strong evidence that this region may have been called South Los Angeles by academics and other people that write books as early as 1910, but the name didn't truly receive recognition, South Los Angeles, from the city until the early 2000s. There are several articles that cover when LA City Council decided to redub South Central as South Los Angeles. Calvin Sims, a reporter for the New York Times, documented Los Angeles City Council's decision to rename South Central to South Los Angeles in 2003. He writes, the council voted unanimously today to rename the 16 square mile district South Los Angeles as part of an effort to erase the image of South Central as the scene of race riots in 1965 and 1992 and the setting for films featuring gangs and drug dealers like Training Day, Colors, and Boys in the Hood. Who knew that changing names would combat century-old stereotypes? I should have changed my name ages ago. In an unverified account, Sims said that middle-class neighborhoods lobbied for this name change, but obviously it has never been adopted across the board. These name changes are pretty much confirmed in actual city planning documents. The Area Planning Commission calls this area of Los Angeles South LA. The community plan areas split South LA down the middle from southeast to southwest Los Angeles. Documents or not, this region is still in a tug of war with names depending on who you ask. Some people grew up with this place being called South Central and want to keep it this way. It's a moniker that many people have clung to over the years, especially in South Central culture from the early 80s and 90s. And there's something about South Central that succinctly embodies the struggle that many minorities live with, and not just Black Los Angeles. It's a valid name, and just because the city may not want to recognize South Central officially doesn't mean that you can't identify with it. And then there's South LA. There are so many people at odds with this name. It seems to be a new term for people to embrace a new era of South LA beyond the 80s and 90s, which isn't necessarily a bad thing all the time. Many people who might not identify with popular references or feel a real connection to the term or are old enough to predate South Central might just be more comfortable with South LA. And for some, that term isn't forced, it's more natural. And we've seen that in the very first episode where we looked at private groups and what residents actually thought about the name. A lot of older residents really aligned with South LA over South Central. And then there are the people who are more gentry, if you will. They want this neighborhood to be better and a prime location for Targets, Trader Joe's, and Coffee Beans, and opt for the less stereotypical, easier on the tongue South LA. And of course, that's kind of the USC version of South LA, which has all of those establishments. To be honest, we're a region that's deprived of many of those luxuries. But personally, I'm split. South LA felt natural because I heard it so much recently. But I still recognize South Central. On one end, the name South Central has been historically used to disassociate people who live in this area of Los Angeles. I mean, as it was only a few pockets, as we've seen earlier in the city, that black people and other minorities could actually live in. And it continued to depict Black Los Angeles, calling this whole region South Central based on one neighborhood is a misnomer. And it's really based on the original neighborhood that many people in South Central or South Los Angeles do not live in. But on the other hand, I know that renaming this place South Los Angeles has not solved any of the problems. I mean, investing in better schools, investing in our communities, more job opportunities, more neighborhood resources, stuff that this region has been starved of for the last 100 years. Those are the things that would actually change this community. So when you ask the question South LA or South Central, both are right. Legally speaking, it's South Los Angeles. But South Central is still real for so many people. So, really, it all depends on which one you identify with the most: the struggle and resilience of South Central or the opportunity of South LA. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the South LA Recap. I really appreciate you guys, and I really hope that you guys learned something new. And I will continue to make more videos that preserve the history on how South Central / South LA actually is. Thanks, and I'll see you next time on the recap.